Hey guys, if you have any kind of bed rack, topper, camper, alu cab, anything like that, and you can no longer use your digital rear view cameras or your bed view cameras, let me show you how I relocated mine after building this shelf for my camping tables to be able to use those cameras with the kit from GG Off-Road. I will link it down below. It worked out perfect. I've had it on the truck for a few days now. Everything is going as smooth as can be. Let me show you the kit and how to get it installed so you can now use your cameras even with the back blocked off. Here's what you're going to get in his kit. You have your 2 wiring harnesses, 1 for each camera, heat shrink tubing, 2 different mounts right there, a suction cup mount as well. He sends 4 different wedges, which this is a pretty good idea. It has a very slight angle to them. And, so if you want to fine tune the angle of the cameras once we get them in the new positions, we have 3 caps and some B7000. First step is going to be getting the cameras out of the stock assembly. So let's go ahead and get that done and we'll move on. We're going to have to lower the headliner. So first thing we want to do is pull our seats down. And then we want to take our C-pillars right here and we want to pop these off. Now, you can just use your hands, get them in here. Make sure your hands are clean or wear a pair of gloves because you're going to be touching the headliner. It does get dirty pretty easily. So you can just get your fingers up in here. They're only held on by clips. So just kind of give it a nice little pop like so. And again, we're going to want to do that on both sides. You can see they're only held in by those little white clips, so that's all you're popping out. Next step is going to be getting the assembly out of the truck. In order to do that, there's 3 10mm bolts behind it. That's why we have to drop the headliner. So I did put on a clean pair of gloves so I don't get the headliner dirty. So the headliner is actually held in with Velcro and clips. So we're just going to kind of start from the side over here and slowly and carefully remove it from being tucked up in the weather stripping. So just take your time, pulling down slowly. You could hear the clips popping off there. And we're good to go. So in total, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 clips. And actually, I don't see any Velcro in his video. I believe he said there was some Velcro up there. I don't see any Velcro. Mine just has 4 different clips. So just kind of work your way across and pop those clips off. That'll give us access to the back of the light. Before we undo those 3 10mm nuts, I kind of want to give you an idea of what you're going to be looking at because there are 3 different wiring harnesses that we're going to be disconnecting. So when you're looking at the light and you come up on the driver's side, let's see if I can get you a look. Sorry, bear with me. Just want to give you a pretty good look at what you're looking for. So that right there, that's going to be your light wiring harness. So we're going to be disconnecting that one. And then the 2 camera harnesses are on the passenger side. If you look right up there, right, let me see if I can get the camera focused here. They're right here. There's going to be 2 like gray clips. They're going to be the 2 camera harnesses that we have to disconnect once we get the light removed. Using an extended number 10, if you get your hands up in here, you could actually feel the ends of the bolt part. So we're just going to go ahead and get our number 10 up there. Again, just be careful with the headliner. You don't want to crease it. So I'm kind of feeling the end of the bolt with my left fingers and then guiding the number 10 over the bolt. And then once you get them started, you could actually reach up with your fingers and unscrew them the rest of the way and pop them out like that. Number 2. And number 3. Now we can kind of just take the assembly and pull straight back. Like so. And you can see we're going to have the 2 camera harnesses that I showed you, And what we're going to do is this little grommet, we're going to go ahead and just pull that right out of the hole. Like so. And then over here is your wiring harness. Okay, so we're just going to kind of let that carefully dangle. And then I'm going to reach up underneath and disconnect the light harness that I showed you and the 2 camera harnesses on this side that I showed you. It's going to be extremely hard to show that on camera. That's why I took the camera off the tripod before and showed you exactly where they're at. Just get your fingers up there and undo the clips. Once you have the wiring harnesses undone, we can go ahead and snake it out and take the assembly over to the bench and get the rest done. Now, you can see here, I'll put on the screen, I can't remember exactly, these are the 2 camera harnesses. One has pink tape on it, one has brown tape on it. You're going to be able to tell the difference when you look at the cameras as well, because the digital rear view camera is much longer, but you can make a notation on the color of the wiring as well if you wanted to, just to differentiate between the cameras. Okay, so here we are on the back of the assembly. You can see what it looks like here. We're going to be removing the 2 cameras, so you're going to want to remove these 2, and they're just Phillips heads, so these 2 and these 2. Don't touch the ones up in the corners there. Hopefully you can see this, but again, it's kind of obvious which 4 hold the cameras in, these 2 and these 2. Go ahead and remove those 4 Phillips head, and we'll have the cameras out. Okay, so here are your 2 cameras, and you could obviously tell the difference. This one here on top is your rear view, your digital rear view. This is your bed camera, okay? Very easy to tell them apart. Before we do anything else, we're gonna go ahead and cover up our holes, or plug them up with the included pieces that he sends in his kit. I'm just gonna go ahead and, we have it off, so I'm just gonna clean the area. And one thing to note, this plastic piece here is very brittle. This little plastic shape that holds the 2 cameras. Just be careful when you're kind of working with that so you don't break it. All right, so what we're going to do now is, as I mentioned, we're going to cap these holes. Now, he sends these 3 pieces, or caps, whatever you want to call them. There's kind of a small, medium, and a large. The large set aside. That's what's going to go on the truck, which I'll show you in a second. The other 2, the small and the medium, I guess, hopefully you can see the middle of the small one has a smaller hole, and then that has a little bit bigger hole. You can't really mess it up when you're looking at this, when you're looking at the back of the tail light, or the third brake light, I'm sorry. There's a bigger hole and a smaller hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the medium size, and you're going to go from the back of the third brake light. Now again, this plastic is brittle, so just kind of support it as you pop this into place. I don't know if you heard that, but it kind of popped in. And you can see when you flip it around, it's nice and flush right there. Same thing for the smaller one. Support that plastic and just kind of push down and pop it into place. Now, you don't really need any sealant or anything here, but what I am going to do, and he shows it in his video as well, I'm going to take a little bit of hot glue just to give it a little bit of structural, strength. So I'm just going to put a little dab of hot glue, in a couple different spots to make sure these don't rattle loose and pop out. Next, we're going to take the third, or the biggest cap that he sends, and we're going to go ahead and put it in the spot where the camera harnesses were coming out, and this is where we're going to use the B7000. I did clean that area off with another alcohol pad, so we're just going to go ahead and take a little bit of the B7000. You don't need a lot, and we're just going to kind of make a nice little ring around the inner cap, and then we'll just go ahead and pop this into place. Next up, we're just going to take the 2 wiring harnesses that he sends. Now, these are identical, so what I did was I put a little piece of electrical tape around, actually, I'm sorry, the green end, around the green end of the one. So that way, they're going to be running the same way, so when we get the cameras in the new position, this way we'll be able to remember and tell what harness we plugged in where. So the one with the electrical tape on the green end, I'm going to take that gray end and plug it into, that's the one I'm going to use for the digital rear view camera, which is going to be, when you're looking up in there, it's going to be the one that's closest to the front of the truck. That's your digital rear view mirror. The one closest to the back is for the bed view. Okay, now we'll take the second harness. Again, gray end is going to go into the truck, and this one is going to be for the bed view. All right, now before we do anything else, let me grab the cameras. We're going to plug them into these ends and make sure they're working before we waste time in routing the wires. So let me grab the cameras, we'll plug them in. So as I mentioned earlier, the one with the brown tape is going to be your digital rear view. And I know this is the one for digital rear view because of that electrical tape I put on there. So let's go ahead and connect these. Connect the bed view. And let's go turn the truck on and see what happens. All right, let's flip this to the digital rear view. And well, it's probably not going to turn out good on camera because I just set the cameras back there underneath the bed rack, but I can see the frame of my bed rack. Again, you may not be able to see that on camera, but the camera is working. Let's test out the functionality and make sure, yep, it's working. Again, I don't know if you can see it or not. Let's see if we could. Yep, it's panning up, panning down. Beautiful. So the digital rear view is definitely working. All right, let's test the bed camera. Perfect. I just kind of have them sitting back there. Again, hopefully the glare isn't too bad. I hope you guys can see the screens, but both cameras are working perfectly. All right, we can now start buttoning up the back of the truck. So what we're gonna do is take the two wiring harnesses, put them on the front side of these clips. So just kind of run them up and over the clips that hold the headliner in, and we're just going to run them over to the C-pillar, and we'll be able to take it from there once we get inside the truck. But once we do this, I'm just going to go ahead and take the wiring harnesses and set them in there, because now, I don't know if you can tell, but it's getting kind of dark and it might start raining. So I'm going to want to get my, it's under the tent, it's not going to matter anyway, but now we're at, once you get the wiring harnesses over to your C-pillar like so, now we can get the third brake light and get it repositioned, plug in our lighting harness, and get it resecured with the three 10 millimeter nuts. Okay, so we're just going to take our lighting harness, feed it through the hole, line up the 3 bolts. And I did clean this whole area since I had the brake light off. I figured I did wipe down that whole area behind there with alcohol pads, just so you know. If you want to, go nuts. I figured I had it off, so why not? Okay, so we got it on there. So I'll grab my 3 10 millimeter nuts and resecure it. Don't forget to reach up and plug in your wiring harness for your lights. Everything is secure, so we're just going to go ahead and push up the 4 locations that have the clips. You'll hear them clip back into place. Just going to kind of push up. I do have a clean pair of gloves on. And then we'll just make sure that everything looks good all along the edge of the headliner here. I'm going to go ahead and resecure the driver side C-pillar because we're not going to need this any longer now that the headliner's back in place. All right, guys, here we are next day. We kind of ran out of light last night, so you saw me button up the C-pillar on the driver side. Now on the passenger side, this is obviously where we're going to be routing the cables. So we're going to take both of our cables, and we basically just have to run them. Again, they're popping out from the side up above the headliner. We're going to run them down the C-pillar, and we need to get under the seat. In order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just pull the weather stripping off real quick. That's very easy. It just kind of sits in a groove. So I'm just going to kind of pull this back and get it out of our way. We're going to go ahead and remove this panel. Just pops right up. It's only held in by clips. Set it aside. We're going to remove our fuse box panel right here just to get it out of our way. You don't really have to remove this, but it does pop up pretty easily. just to give us a little bit more light. Set that aside. Now you do want to remove the clips, the pop clips. I've already removed some of them just to save time. In order to do it, it's very simple. All you do is push down in the middle. You'll hear it pop, and then you can get your pry tool up underneath and it'll pull right out just like that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 removed. That should be all we need to remove in order to do this. If you want to give yourself a little bit more wiggle room, you can remove more going across, but we should be good with just those 4. Now we're going to go ahead and remove this whole side panel right here. In order to do that, it's kind of tucked in behind the middle section here. So just kind of pull out on the middle section. You'll hear a little pop because that's held in by clips. And this is why we had to remove a couple over here. So then we can kind of just wiggle this piece out just like that. You can see it just kind of sits in there with those two. There's 2 grooves back there. Very easy to remove. Now, if you have a hybrid, there's one more panel right here that we're going to have to remove. I don't believe this panel is on the non-hybrids, but it's also very easy to remove. There's a pop clip right here, which maybe I'll take a picture and put it on the screen. And then there's a pop clip right down in here. You really can't miss them. So just go ahead and remove those 2, and we'll be able to get this other piece out of the way. So again, super simple, just held in by those clips. And then one more down in here. And then this piece, again, just pull straight forward. And this will kind of just slide up and out of the way. And now that'll give us access to the boot that we run all of our wiring down through. If you've seen any of my videos, if you're a longtime follower of the channel, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This is the boot that's going to give us access down below the truck. You could actually access this without removing these panels. It just gives you a much better look and much easier access if you remove these panels. And as you can see, it's super easy to remove them all. Okay, so with all of that removed, now we have easy access. You don't actually have to remove this whole panel down here because it's actually held in by a bolt down on this end with the seat belt. So we literally just need to have enough room to kind of tuck our 2 cables. We're going to run them right down the middle of our C-pillar. And as you're doing this, just kind of make sure you don't have them in the way of any of the clips that hold the panels in place. So when we go to replace the panels and pop them back in, obviously you don't want to pinch them at all. So again, we don't have to remove this panel we don't have to remove it totally. We just want to remove it enough just to be able to snake our wires down to the bottom here. Again, just avoiding any pinch points. And then once you get down to the bottom here, get over that last tab, we can pop it up underneath here. And now you can see we have easy access to run them from here straight to the grommet and then down underneath the truck. So before we go any further, I'm just going to go ahead and button up these panels because now we're obviously done with the C-pillar. So I'm going to go ahead and button these 2 panels up and then we'll move on. And again, as you're doing this, just make sure as you're popping the clips back where they go, just make sure you're not pinching any wires or anything. But there's more than enough room to do this safely without pinching any cables or wiring. Now in order to place the weather stripping, you literally just there's a groove on the back side. You just take this piece of the truck, you push the weather stripping back into that groove, and it's that easy. Nothing special, super easy to pop back into place. So here's a better look at the grommet that you're going to be going down through. And as you can see, again, if you've been a long-time follower of the channel, all of our lighting and everything, this is how we access in and outside of the truck. So I'm just going to pick a clean spot right back in here where we don't have any wires going through yet. And just very carefully, I'm just going to make a slit. I've already checked up underneath. There's nothing on that side that I have to worry about. So now we can take our 2 wiring harnesses and feed them down through. And if you wanted to, I made the slit big enough to where, let's see, hopefully I can just kind of push them down through. Yeah, they'll go down through. If you need to, you could always go from the underneath side, pop a pair of needle nose pliers up and, you know, grab them and pull them down. Whatever's easier for you, but if you make the slit big enough, you'll be able to just kind of push them down from the top side. And if you're ever worried about, honestly, guys, you can see how many wires I've ran through this grommet. I have never had any issues with any kind of water or mud. And I mean, you guys know we do some off-roading. I've never had any problem with anything, any liquids or anything coming up through this grommet, even though we're putting slits in there. If you're worried about anything like that, you could reseal it with, you know, any kind of silicone or whatever you want to do there. But again, I've never had to worry about it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish feeding both of the wires down through to the underside of the truck, and we'll be ready to go up to the bed. Okay, both cables are run down through the grommet, so now we're just going to go ahead and put the interior of the truck back together so we could just wrap that up and get it done and out of the way. So just reverse your steps, put the pieces back where they go. Pretty straightforward and simple. And in order to get these clips back in, you want to make sure the middle section is popped back out first. So you can see there's the longer portions down here. Just push those back up so it looks like that. Then you push it down through the hole, and then you can clip them back in. All right, guys, so at this point, we have both of the wiring harnesses popping out of the bottom of the truck through that grommet. Now, this is going to be, the rest of this install is basically going to be dependent on your setup and your situation. You have a couple different options with the bed rack like we have here. I'm going to basically run my cables up in between the truck and the bed, between the cab and the bed, feed it through my wire hider right here, and then into the grooves of the bed rack and to the new locations for the cameras, which obviously I'll show you that once it's all done. If you have a topper, or if you don't have a bed rack or anything like that, the other option you have is you can take it and run it across and up behind. There's a whole big opening up behind and up over your wheel well. You know, you just kind of have to, wherever possible, just follow existing wiring. You can bring it back here. If you saw my install on the airbags, you can run them the same way I did those airlines. You can bring it back, again, zip tie to existing wiring whenever possible. You want it away from anything moving or extremely hot like the exhaust. You can feed it back behind this panel here and pop it up through here to get into the bed. And if you did it that way, you can see you'd be able to bring it up where I just showed you, and you can pop it out. You can drill a hole here, pop it out, you know, with your outlet. You could actually see where my airlines are. So that's what I was referring to. You can see where the valves are, the Schrader valves for my airlines. So again, this next step, running the wiring and mounting the cameras, it is going to be totally up to you. I showed you in the beginning the options that he sent to me as far as like how to mount the cameras. He does offer different options, so if you decide to go with his kit, reach out to him and see. I think he mentioned something about he has a 45-degree angle bracket. He has different types of mounting brackets. So as I mentioned, once you get to this point of the install, the rest is going to be kind of up to you. It's literally at this point basically just running the cables to the new locations for the cameras. There's one other thing that I need to show you, how we're going to get the cameras out of the housings that they're currently in and into the housings that he sent. But other than that, it's situationally dependent. It's going to vary on whether you have a topper, a bed rack, however you have your truck set up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run my wires, run my cables to the new locations, and then I'll give you a look at how you swap over the cameras into the new housings, and we'll be just about done. Okay, so before I show you how I ran my wiring, we need to take the camera out of the stock bracket and put it into the new bracket that he sent. Again, this is going to depend on how you want to mount it, but I'm going to be using the two brackets that he sent, and again, I'll show you exactly how it's all going to be set up. In order to get the stock camera out of the stock bracket, there's two very tiny screws. It's actually a T6 Torx bit right here and down in there. Okay, so I had to actually purchase one. The smallest one I had was a T10, so I had to go out and get a T6. They're very tiny, but we're just going to go ahead and remove those two. And then once you have those two out, we need to take the bracket. You can see how the stock bracket is stuck between the camera and the wiring harness. So we need to unplug the wiring harness by pushing down on the tab at the top there. Take the wiring harness off. So you can see how it's going to pop off. So the tab on the top of the wiring harness, that tab right there, you have to push that down and pull. And then again, you can take the stock bracket, and now we'll just plug our camera back in. It can only go in one way. I'm just double checking, but yep, it can only go in one way, so you can't screw it up. So we can plug it back in, and now we can come over to the new housing that he sends, and there's 4 screws on the back of it. They are a 3/32 Allen head, so we're going to go ahead and remove those 4 to separate the 2 pieces. So then you can separate the 2 pieces, and we're going to take this is the bed view camera. Again, you can tell it's the smaller one. If you remember, the digital rear view has the longer neck. So we're going to go ahead and take this, put it in the new housing, and let me make sure I have the wiring harness coming out the correct way. Yep. So we're going to pop it in the new housing. Fit is really good. I got to give him credit, man. These parts that he sends, the caps for the third brake light, and even these new housings for the cameras, it's a perfect fit. So then we'll put the 2 pieces back together, tighten those 3/32 back down, and you can see how good of a fit that is. Okay, so I'm going to do the same exact thing with the digital rear view. We'll get it in the new housing, and then I'll give you a look at the finished product, how we ran the wiring, and the new views that we have on the screen. Going to be the same thing for the digital rear view. 2 T6 Torx on the back there. Go ahead and remove them. Pop the wiring harness off. Bracket will separate. Plug the new camera, or I'm sorry, plug the camera back in. And then this is what the digital rear view housing looks like that he sent. And as I mentioned, if you're looking for some sort of different mounting option or whatever, touch base with them. I don't want to speak for him. I do know he mentioned something about a 45-degree. So I'm not exactly sure how many options he has, but if you're looking for something in particular, reach out to him and see. It just so happens the 2 that he sent for me are going to be perfect for where I'm putting mine, as you're going to see in a minute. Separate the 2 pieces. Put the camera in the new bracket, and pop the back on. Okay, so we have the cameras in the 2 new housings, and if you remember, these cords were attached. Let me grab the boot real quick and I'll show you. You can very easily separate them. So this is the piece, if you remember, had these 2 attached. Now they do have a little bit of like adhesive, but it's like a stretchy adhesive. So what I did was I just took my utility knife and just very carefully, you have enough room to do it if you just take your time and do it slowly, but I just slit right down the middle, pop that off, and then you can pull apart the 2 wires. Now I did this because, as you're going to see again, these 2 cameras are going to be mounted in 2 totally separate places now instead of right next to each other. So let me get these up on the truck and then I'll give you the final look. Cameras are installed. This came out awesome. So as you can see, as I mentioned, we have the wiring ran up between the cab and the bed. Can't see it at all. We're using these wire hiders, so we have the 2 tucked right in there. Looks nice and clean. If I didn't show you them, honestly, you'd probably never even know that was there. I've been using the other longer ones for wiring back here to my my rock lights on the rack and all that good stuff. But anyway, we took the 2 cables for the cameras, ran it underneath here, and then it's in the groove on the back side of the upright of my bed rack. And before we go up in the bed and show you the rest of the wiring, to hide it, this is what I'm using. Got it off Amazon, and what you do is you put the wires in these grooves of the bed rack, and then this pops in the groove, sits nice and flush, hides the wiring, looks super clean. Okay, so that's how we're gonna have the wiring hidden throughout the rest of this process. So let's get up into bed and I'll show you the rest. Okay, so as I mentioned, the wires are running up inside that groove, and then you can see them up in that corner. They're tucked up behind my bracket, so you can't see them at all. And then again, you can see the wire hider ran over. Here's the 2 wires again, running up on top, so you can't see them at all. And these are the brackets that my shelf for my tables attached to, just so you know what they are. And then up here, this is the connection for my digital rear view. You can see we use that heat shrink tubing sitting up on top there. When you're on the ground, you can't even see that, so I love it because I cannot stand seeing wiring. And then if you come over the other side, you can see the wiring comes right here, hidden with the wiring hider. And then there's our digital rear view. Okay, and that's how we have that mounted. We'll get in the truck and give you a view of it. But what I did was I used those 2 wedges, or the 4 wedges, I should say, 2 on each side. I think I am going to 3D print my own. Instead of asking him to send me a couple more, I'll just 3D print my own, because I think, we'll see when we get in the truck, but I think I'm going to want this angled just a little bit more down, but we'll see. But you can see we just used the slide-in T-nuts into the extrusion and bolted right to them. So that's the digital rear view. That's how it looks up there. Blends right in, looks awesome. And then for the bed camera, the wiring just continues again up in the top groove up here, so you can't even see it. There's the connection from the cord to the wiring harness. And then there is the bed view camera mounted right there. Same thing, T-nuts in the extruded rack. And again, the black brackets, black camera, everything just blends in really nice. So I am loving the way it looks. So let's go jump in the truck. And now, just so you know, the extra wiring, because I didn't need the whole wiring harness, the extra wiring, it's bundled up underneath the truck and zip tied up out of the way to existing wiring, because he sends you plenty of slack to basically put these cameras anywhere you want. So here's a look just from outside of the truck. Again, they blend in so nice, which is huge to me. You can see the rear view, or I'm sorry, the bed view up in there. Don't pay attention to that bracket right there. That's for something different. That's going to be a different video. But as I mentioned, when you're outside the truck, they blend in awesome. If you're not looking for them, you probably won't even see them. So I couldn't be happier. Let's jump in and see the view. All right, let's check this out. So I have my rear view positioned. It's not on the digital view, but that's how it would be sitting the way it's been sitting, because I've been unable to use my digital rear view. So I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but I have a good look at what I could actually see. So when we flip it to the digital, it's actually almost identical. If anything, as I mentioned, I may 3D print or get a different type of wedge to tilt the digital rear view down just a little bit more. But man, that's pretty darn close. I'm gonna leave it as is for right now. And I do have it tilted all the way down as far as the options go. Hopefully you can see this. I'm hoping the glare isn't that bad. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty darn close to what I see when I don't have it on the digital view. So definitely happy. If anything, I might wedge it so it's angled a little bit more down, but that's pretty close. So let's take a look at the bed view. All right, let's hit the view button, go to the bed camera, and boom, that looks awesome. It's catching, man, even that angle is just about perfect. Again, if anything, maybe I'll wedge it just a little bit down so you don't have to see the bottom of my tent. But I mean, I can see probably 90% of my bed there, just as is, using the mount that he sent. So yeah, I couldn't be happier with that. If anything, I'm gonna wedge both cameras down just a little bit more, but for right now, it's perfect. I have both of my cameras back in action. I love these cameras, especially my digital rear view. I always have that digital rear view on. Once I got used to using that thing, I always had it. So when I built that shelf for my tables and that was totally blocked and I had to use just my regular rear view, it sucked. I mean, first world problems, I get it, I know, but I absolutely love that digital rear view. So having that back now is definitely awesome. So it's been a few days since I've been using the cameras in the new locations, and I absolutely love them. But as I mentioned, I did want to tilt them down just a little bit more. So what I did was I 3D printed my own wedges. It's a 5-degree angle. This is the one for the bed view camera. I'm going to take you off the tripod and show you exactly what I did with these wedges. The views are absolutely perfect, and I couldn't be happier. I'll give you one last quick look, and we'll wrap the video up. Here's what I did with the digital rear view. You can see I printed a 4-inch by 3-inch wedge with the 5-degree angle. And what that did, not only did it give me the 5-degree angle, it also dropped the camera down. If you remember, it was mounted up here in the track. So it dropped it down about, I don't know, maybe an inch or so as well. So between dropping it down just that slight amount and that 5-degree wedge, as you're gonna see when we go back in the truck, it's the absolute perfect angle. Gives me a view of everything without getting any of the bed rack or tent in the view as well. So absolutely perfect. And it was such an easy 3D print to design and make. And then same thing back here with the bed view. We have the wedge back behind it, that 5-degree wedge that I just showed you. Again, it gave me just a little bit better view of the bed. I'm never gonna get the whole bed in the picture, only because this crossbar where it's mounted is like, if it comes straight down to my tailgate. So unless I really give that a strong angle, I'm never gonna get the entire bed, but I'm okay with that. I can literally see, you know, with that wedge behind there, I can see more than 90% of the bed. So I'm totally happy with that. I could tilt it even more if I wanted to, but with that 5-degree right there, I'm more than happy with it. There's a look at the digital rear view with that 5-degree wedge. It's perfect. I no longer see any of the bed rack or any of the bed view camera. It's just a perfect angle. If a car is literally right up on my tailgate, I can see it. I can see everything behind me, just like it was in the stock position. I have room to play with it. So if we come in here to settings, I still have room to wiggle. You know, it's not like I'm maxed out up or down. If I go all the way up, you could actually, hopefully it's going to turn out, but you can see the edge of my bed rack, and then there's the bed view camera. That's kind of what I was seeing before I did my own 5-degree wedge. So what I did was, once we put it on my 5-degree wedge, I go down until I can still see the very corner of my bed rack. I go down one more click, and now I don't see anything other than what's behind me. And as I mentioned, it's the perfect angle for vehicles behind me. Even if they're right up on my tailgate, I still see them. It is, I couldn't be happier with how that turned out. And as far as the bed view, there that is. So again, I can see a little bit more than what I could before. So I mean, again, my cooler, I'm sure you guys saw in the video, my cooler is right up against the tailgate. I'm literally only missing maybe about 1/3 of my cooler. So I can see almost the entirety of my bed. So I'm happy with that. As I mentioned, I could angle it down even just slightly more. I don't really think there's a need to. I could do it if I wanted to, if I wanted the 3D print maybe a 10-degree bracket or something like that. But again, I'm more than happy with that. I can see almost 100% of the bed. So turned out awesome. There it is, the camera relocation kit from GG Off-Road. As you can see, a lot of flexibility with this kit as far as where you can mount the cameras, how you can mount the cameras. If you like what I did, you know, and you want these 5-degree mounts or wedges, feel free to reach out to me. Check with him. You know, again, I'm not sure exactly what options he has. The housings that he sent to me, the new brackets where the cameras go in, they are perfect. It's a perfect fit. You know, he really kind of knocked it out of the park with them. I just needed that 5-degree wedge just to get it fine-tuned, you know, so I have the view that I want. But other than that, this kit it's perfect. I absolutely love it. So link will be down below. Check it out. If you have any questions on anything you saw in the video, let me know and we'll get them addressed for you. Thanks for watching as always, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one.